Awesome. Okay, let's get started. So, hello everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. Today, we are going to talk about various software development processes at Uber. And joining me is my friend and formerly an engineer on the infrastructure team at Uber, Mindaugas, Rukas. Um, uh, he's now working on a new project called Stencil Frame, and it's in the knowledge sharing space. And I can't wait for him to share a little bit more about all of the stuff he's working on in our session today. So, Mindaugas, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free
Yeah,
to say a few words if you want.
yeah. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, this was unexpected for me.
Nice, 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 nice. So before we get started, maybe I can just say a few things around logistics. So goal for this webinar session today is to keep it very, very conversational. There are a few themes that we'd like to talk through. So I'm going to keep highlighting them as we dive into each of these topics. Generally speaking, this is the set of things that we will cover. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll be sure to incorporate them either during different parts of our conversation or towards the end of the session. Either way, I expect this to take maybe 30, 35 odd minutes. And the general themes are actually pretty simple, right? The first bit I wanted to cover is what did Mindaugas and me, what were we doing at Uber? Why were we doing some of the things that we were? And we also started working on quite a few things at a time in the market where um, like there really weren't very many solutions out in the public space. So how did we go about rationalizing each of our decision making, et cetera, et cetera? So that's going to be the overall theme for the webinar today. And maybe with that, I'll stop sharing this slide and we'll get started.
Yeah, let's go.
Excellent. So, Mindaugas, what were we doing at Uber? What did you do?
Uh, I did everything. Yeah, so my journey started back in 2016, and I joined DevX, like developer experience team, and we did basically our goal was to make every Uber engineer more productive. So deliver tools, services, and whatnot to make them build other tools faster, with higher quality, and etc. Yeah, so I moved across across teams, and but the area still remained the same, from developer experience to developer platform. Uh, Probably just renamed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So and at some point, I moved to that build team, which was responsible for Go monorepo and etc. Yeah, and you were?
I was doing just random infra things. That again, very similar to you, right? Because we also joined Uber at the time when company was comparatively much, much smaller than it is today. And maybe just for the folks joining us who might not know as much about Uber's engineering processes, culture, etc., I can say a few words. So Uber started as a company which had a couple of monolithic applications, which ultimately started to get broken down into some level of microservices. In the session today, we should talk a little bit about what led to some of those decisions being made. But at its core, when a lot of this stuff was happening, the whole container story was still pretty fresh. This was in the 2015, 2016s of the world. And Kubernetes was just a thing that was coming out. There was another project called Mesos, and Uber ultimately, like two monoliths, when you're starting to serve the entire world and have a growing engineering team, it gets pretty hard to manage without proper tooling and infrastructure. So a decision was made ultimately with the theme of letting individual product teams move as fast as possible. The whole concept of microservices seemed to make sense so that every team could essentially be their own independent unit. And that's why all of these things happened. And I got to work on various infrastructure things along the way and some security things as well. So yeah, that's kind of what we did at Uber. Maybe Mindaugas, one of the things I think we might be able to give some value around is you primarily focused, like your customers were Uber's product engineers at its core. Um, why is developer productivity even important? Like when we hire engineers, we look at all of these lead code things, etc., and they just know how to do everything, right? So why do we need developer productivity at all?
Yeah, this is very good question. So, yeah, if you think about Uber, uh, it's large company, like couple thousands of engineers and etc. So you don't face many issues on the small company, like which has only, let's say, 10 of engineers and so. So with that many engineers, you start facing different problems. So those problems probably do not exist on the internet. You cannot Google them. You cannot find solutions, and you don't want all of those 2,000 or whatever engineers spend time of, I don't know, dealing with Git issues or dealing with CI issues or working on something unrelated. You want them to focus only on business matter, like business value. So what you want to do, like you want to have dedicated probably team or maybe outsource that to someone else who takes care of all infrastructure, all tools, all etc. So this is what we did because the like industry still was pretty, let's say, I'd say lagging behind, and we were not able to buy a lot of tools needed
Yeah,
for Uber specific Uber scale, and we had to invent a lot of stuff ourselves. Like yeah, so we can talk about many examples. Like for example, I don't know, search tools back then. So there was no search tools to search across all micro repos, right? So we invented our own like kind of in-house
mhm,
search tool using OpenGrok and etc. We then when BuildKite, not BuildKite, SourceGraph came in, yeah.
yeah,
So we started building the SourceGraph solution together with them, and in the beginning it was not fast, it was lagging, it had a lot of issues, if you remember. But yeah, after a year or so, now it's great, I guess.
yeah. Remember, I think Joseph was also very tiny when we had started at Uber,
Yep.
and it's great to see how far the company has also come over the last few years. So, no, that's awesome. You mentioned one thing, right, Mindaugas, and Uber early on, like as the are two big monoliths. So I remember RT API actually pretty closely. Those are getting broken down, and now you have so many micro repos and so many microservices. Um, and you mentioned you got an opportunity to work on our monorepo stuff, which is specifically the Go monorepo. So why did Uber do a monorepo at all? Like, should everyone just do a monorepo? Like, I'm trying to understand what the overall business value was. Like, was it worth it?
Yeah, so this is very good question. So it didn't came up like, oh, we need monorepo. It so like like the stream of work developer platform gets from is single document called developer survey. So we ran this survey every year and collected a lot of feedback from other engineers. Then we analyzed and bucket all those feedback in like different categories, and based on those we decided what to work on. And like I can mention like couple areas like documentation, like developer environment, dependency management, CI, like all those build stuff related. So one of those was very common, was issues of managing dependencies, like in many different aspects. So let's say one was if you want to make a cross service change and some dependencies are incompatible, so you had pretty difficult times of doing this, or maybe you wanted to upgrade security vulnerability, or maybe something else. Like there was a lot of issues, and then you had different build tools. Like every micro repo had their own uh, like submodule of build tools and etc. And those were outdated and difficult to manage. So we had pretty significant amount of issues. And if you think about, we were maintaining about 10,000 of repositories or so. So it was kind of natural. We needed some single dependency management solution. We started thinking about version sets, which was the thing like used by Amazon, but eventually we decided like I remember I was reading Microsoft monorepo use case and etc. and was joking, oh, let's migrate to monorepo. Initially it was the kind of joke,
Yeah.
but then after consideration and etc. we decided, yeah, this might be the thing which solves many of issues. Yeah, so decision was made, like we started migrating, and then we had another issues, another type of problems.
And
Yeah.
one thing I'm sure you might have also encountered this. Actually, not might have. I'm sure you have. Engineers are like, why didn't you just do this, that, and the other? So, Mindaugas, why didn't you just write a script somewhere that would just go and update all of the dependencies? Like this problem, there has to be a simpler solution, no?
No, no. So yeah, so Uber's infrastructure was pretty complex. It was like back then, like Uber, when Uber started, the notion was basically build as fast as you can, whatever tools, whatever solutions you want. Like probably we used like all of the most popular languages, all of the most popular databases, all of the most popular whatnot. Like we had so many different technologies, and that was also another issue. Like we it was hard to maintain and hard to keep more moving fast. So we made a decision, we need to consolidate, we need to have as fewer databases as possible, as fewer technologies as possible, as fewer languages, supported languages. And so you cannot run a script. Like you might need to run a script which hits like 20 different languages, or maybe you need something, I don't know, this or that. It was not that easy. So first of all, we need to have kind of clear understanding what we have, then easy to manage what we have, and etc. And then you can run all those scripts maybe somehow. Yeah, so also that monorepo stuff was part of consolidation, like
Yeah.
reducing the stuff we have, reducing the load, reducing the amount of complexity, reducing the amount of maintenance and support we had, like even consolidating teams, like developer experience teams. And we had multiple CI teams supporting multiple CI infrastructures. So, like, it was a mess. I'd say.
Yeah, and maybe like Mindaugas, just to dig into this aspect a little bit, right? Because most people just get to interact with Uber through a couple of apps ultimately. But at the end of the day, there's thousands of other processes, services, whatever, running in a computer far away that the apps actually communicate with. And I remember at Uber, like the CI tooling for each of the phone apps is slightly different. The release processes are different. And then you have all of these microservices. So they have their own form of looking at CI. And then even in the microservice side of the house, right? Microservices, while that has some value, with the micro repo model, when you were essentially empowering every product team to go and figure out how to just create this artifact somehow that then gets run in production, sure, that's well and good. But at the end of the day, when you want to have some level of standardization to essentially have a common build system just to be able to share artifacts, for example, across the teams, or a common layer for how one service talks to another service with the networking layer. A lot of this stuff gets closer to the application constructs. And now you'll have, I distinctly remember this Python 2.7.10 running in some places, or a Node.js version 0.10.32. Like this version number is stuck in my head still because that's what RTATI was at. And now at this point in time, as an infrastructure platform team, as Mindaugas was saying, you have 20 languages and then a bunch of versions for each of those languages. And it immediately, our job is to help people move faster in the world. Um, and now we are spending all of this time, money, energy towards making sure like you're supporting each of these different SKUs. And ultimately you realize, okay, like what got us here, some consolidation is perhaps needed. Otherwise, this problem will continue to be unbounded in some ways. Or we'll just end up making so many more investments than we actually need to. Um, and for like the monorepo, for Uber's context in that state of the world, it made sense. And remember, even with in the Go space, you had what Glide was a thing back then. Then Go mod this, that, and the other,
Yeah.
and finally Go modules came out. So it's just everything keeps changing all the time. It's not just the languages and the versions, but even the package managers each of those use. And now, if you have internal libraries, you have to distribute it across and make it available across various package managers. It never-ending problem. So, hence, yeah. Um, okay. Remember, so Go monorepo, right? We realize we have decided we are doing this stuff. So you now have to get teams onboarded into the monorepo. Um, you mentioned you faced a couple of problems after that as well, and I'm sure a couple more followed that also. Could you tell us a little bit about like what those were and like what you realized? Because as a user of what you were putting out, I remember it was very iterative. You all had very good customer support. Is what at least what I thought. Could you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So you can think from first like from developer experience part. So let's say you was working on some small repository with a couple of your peers, and your repository was small. You had fast builds, like probably in a second you can build anything on your laptop. You can do whatever you want, and etc. and etc. Like there was no rules. And now you are part of this big gigantic like whatever sandbox, like everyone is bringing their own like toys and etc. And now like it's like slow to download. Like the size was somewhere about 2 gigabytes initially, like of that repo. So to just download it, it took like somewhere around 10 seconds, not 10 minutes maybe, I don't know, I don't remember, somewhere.
And
But
depending on where you were in the world, it would go
yeah,
up
so
and down.
it was slow. Then the builds was slow. Like Git status was like in order of 10 seconds, 20 seconds somewhere. Like if you had like Git status in your command prompt, like you had a lot of problems. And CI was slow. Like initially we had uh, like those CI jobs was very fast, and then when we had it needed to clone all that monorepo every time before CI job starts, it took like I don't know, like sometimes just 10 minutes to wait. It's preparing the environment, 10 minutes, like what? And yeah, we started like digging into all those issues. And the thing again, there was no solution in the industry. You cannot buy anything to speed up. You cannot like outsource this. No one knows how to deal with those issues. Like Facebook, they had their own issues with their own version control system. Google had their own issues, like, and we had our own. Like we borrowed some tools from those companies, but they didn't work as expected, and etc. So we had to implement a lot of like for example that submit queue. The reason was, like, you can imagine, like every day you had about thousand new commits coming in. So you can run like, and our basically goal was to keep the master green always like validated. You cannot wait hours just to speed up, like just to land your commit and whatnot. So we invented submit queue, we invented a lot of stuff. And yeah, so we it was interesting, it was truly amazing.
Yeah, I specifically remembered because back then my dot files, it actually used to include Git status also. And since then, it has changed to only include Git branch, and I never went back. And I know some of the problems did get resolved, but yeah, 6, 7 years since, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, One thing, Mindaugas, so we start on the Go monorepo thing, right? And I'll spend a couple more minutes on this because we did build a lot of stuff internally at Uber, and I suspect our sentiments towards building has changed over time as well, as we have also gotten an opportunity to suffer more. Bazel was another thing we used. How did we rationalize some of those decisions? Maybe even for the audience, why was Bazel important in the first place? And
Yeah,
what did it
so
get us?
very good question. So you can think about this monorepo. You have like thousands of microservices, and you have thousands of whatnot. And when you send this new commit to CI, or even on your local laptop, you don't want to build all of them. Like just you want to build just your single piece of change or single piece of application. So how to do this, right? It's very simple question. So when you think that Bazel and Bach and those tools, they provide the APIs to basically figure out what other dependencies needs to be built based on this single target. So that was kind of very natural decision. Yeah, we need something like this, and then you can build just single target, and Basil will figure out what else it needs
Yeah.
to build, what else it needs to do to speed up, and basically skips 90% of work of stuff existing on the maybe even more on that monorepo. So your builds becomes very fast and etc.
Yeah, and I remember, like ultimately, after we figured out how to get caching, etc., all of that stuff to work correctly, ultimately it ended up feeling like the old micro repo days again.
Yeah,
Like because things are fast now, you're sharing cached artifacts. If you have, let's say, built, I don't know, the net HTTP library somehow, if you, I think we were also doing that at Uber for a different set of reasons. Like if Mindaugas has already built it, Debo kind of doesn't need to anymore. So a lot of value ended up getting derived there. So now, see, you said we had something on OpenGrok. I remember you used to go there, code search, and half the time it was wrong. Sometimes it was right and it was great. And then we went to the source graph thing. So to me, that was one of the earliest good examples of like us making that migration from that build to buy decision making. And could you maybe like see a little bit, Mindaugas, about what was going on in the industry at that point in time? Because code search, that aspect started to grow. Why is code search even important? Like, shouldn't engineers just know?
yeah, they should. They should know all source code. Yes. So the problem was basically, if you think about code search, So you're probably doing some, I don't know, cross-service refactoring, or maybe changing some contracts or APIs or whatnot. So you may be looking who depends on your, I don't know, this framework, this library. So you need to find those users, or maybe something else. So the only way we had basically to do a search, like after we implemented Bazel, yeah, that was another option. You can query those targets, those dependencies, but before that, it was not the thing. So the only search, or maybe you just looking for random stuff. So the only way is just to search, and there was no other options. Like so, we had to implement those. Uh, so regarding industry, if you think this is just one single example, so many tools we implemented was because there was no other option. And I remember we always started from looking: can we buy? Can we outsource? Can we do this? For example, one of the famous, like maybe not famous, but very good example was chat. It's not even better than so. I remember, yeah, we had our own chat, but we didn't want it to maintain that piece. So we started looking around, all and found Slack. Okay, let's go to Slack, everyone. Uh, but then after we migrated to Slack, we saw that it's not working for our scale. I remember typing a message and then waiting 10 seconds or maybe 20 just to see that message in the channel, and then maybe see in the different order than I send it. Like it was always the problem. Like, and I remember something like they said, "Oh, you Uber DDoSing our Slack like services." So we what to do, right? Slack is not working for our scale, so we had to implement our own UChat and wait until they resolve all issues. So after a year or so, maybe 2 years, we get back. But we always started with looking: can we buy? There was no tools to buy, so we implemented our own. And then after industry catch up, we migrated, and that simplified a lot of things. So instead of so there is one very common like idea: cost of opportunity, right? So if you are
Hmm.
building something, you are missing out on something else. Maybe you can spend that amount of resources on some other more important stuff than building this chat, right? And that was a common like theme.
But see, Mindaugas, I'm an engineer though. I whatever you do, I can do better than you. I might not even understand exactly how you do it, but I can do it better. So how do you like rationalize this engineering like mindset and put it in the context of the business? Because oftentimes, and even at Uber, we'd say, I think this is just still a little bit of a trend in the industry, like really not acknowledging the depth of the opportunity cost enough. How do you advise folks to think about that?
Yeah, so first of all, think about what happens after you build that tool. So you probably have to maintain it, and how many hours you will spend of maintenance and updates and etc. So, for example, I don't know, you can think about simple feature security updates. Will you spend your own time on doing those security updates, or do you want to outsource? So, for example, GitHub has all security detection stuff, like so. Probably it's better just to use some existing tools which you can use, which you can buy, and they will do a job for you, right? And you be like that time you doing yourself those security updates, you can do whatever else. You can maybe finish the feature, or maybe do whatever else, learn new language, learn new, I don't know, technology.
Yeah, yeah. Because the other thing I've also like rationalized over this time period is sure, while as an engineer, you kind of want to take everything to that 95, 98, 99, or even 100, oftentimes 80 might actually be good enough for the business. And so, if, like, for example, we during our time there, I don't think Uber didn't really use GitHub. We had our own internally hosted version control system. But I heard there might have been some migrations that have happened since to GitHub. And as a result, we had to like figure out, okay, how do we do some level of scanning across all of these dependencies? Sure, it's still the Git protocol at the end of the day, but the GitHub ecosystem now has what is it called, Dependabot, I think, etc., etc.,
Yep.
which does a bunch of things for you. Sure, is it the best in the world? One might argue either way, but it gets you enough from the core business's perspective, where you just don't have to invest the time to go and solve that at depth. So
Yeah.
I guess yeah, be close to industry and don't reinvent
Don't. Yeah. So I remember.
unless you are in the business of reinventing, I guess.
Yeah, I remember with those dev boxes. Like if you think about Dev Zero, what is doing. So we tried multiple, maybe 2, 3 iterations of trying to build dev boxes, and the reason why, the because of differences between developer environments. This is probably the one difference. I mean, like we had developers using Linux, Mac OS, Windows, and different versions of whatnot, and then different I don't know IDEs, and then different shells, and different this and that. Like, and then every complaint. Oh, this doesn't work on my whatnot. You need to upgrade. Basically this was the single answer. You need to upgrade. You have to upgrade. And oh, I cannot because I use this. Okay, so you're out of luck. So the only one solution was basically have single environment, single piece of the same environment we can maintain. DevBoxes was kind of the solution, right?
Yeah.
And maybe if you want a bigger machine, you can use the same environment and whatever else. And
And
so
like all of the platform tooling then just gets centralized around that, right? And sure, you can't be everything for everyone, but you can be most things for most people.
yep.
So I guess that mentality worked pretty well. Maybe Mindaugas to switch gears a little bit. So we talked about the development workflows, right? We talked about how we consolidated into monorepos, figured out a bunch of build tooling, especially in the Go monorepo using things like Bazel. We figured out the CI/CD tooling to make builds faster. How do you keep master green at scale? And now engineers are mostly happy on that side of the house, on essentially the SDLC aspect. But the first bits of again the software development life cycle is having a better understanding of like what are you building, how are you integrating, uh, how does this other service that I'm working on, how that works, etc. Like we had our own protocol at Uber, which is called T-channel. We used a serialization called Thrift from Apache, and a fourth version of it. And we had like some places to go and look up how what the interfaces that services are exposing were exposing are. But that only takes you so far. Like there's the at its core, we had Eng documentation at Uber. You had a bunch of docs in Google Docs, etc. And it never felt very ergonomic. Like everything had a lot of like micro operations everywhere. And now you have a very distributed team. Also, you have like people essentially across, I think, every single time zone possible in the world. Um, which I think a lot of that also leads into what you're doing today. So, do you want to tell us a little bit, Mindaugas?
Yeah, so that goes back to our developer survey document. So if you remember, like the first version I saw was in 2016, and it the main key, like the key pain point, was documentation. And after analysis, we discovered, okay, so the main point, like the key point, like how to find stuff you're looking. For example, if you remember, there was a common issue of who owns this service, who I can reach. Like, yes, like, oh, there is something I don't know who created this, who can I contact. So Uber created you own and etc. So we built a lot of tools to allow everyone to find services, to find ownership, to find knowledge, to find documentation, to find this and that. So we thought, okay, job done. That's it. Next year, again, the main key pain point was documentation again. What's up? We had all those tools built, and still we had the same issue, right? So the issue basically switched from ability to find to the quality. The quality of existing content was not great. So it was either outdated, it was missing, it was this and that, all possible issues with the quality. And we had no solution. Like I remember talking with product managers and etc. and technical product managers. Like no one know what to do. Like I remember one day we had a task from leadership. Go and update all your documentation. And I remember spending a week or so just writing call docs, and I remember there was a list of maybe in the spreadsheet oh, we updated all this, and something like very stupid, like manual effort to update. But still, it's up to date, like as long as you don't change anything, right?
By the
Like
time you're done with the list, the first thing is now out of date.
yes. So basically, what we're doing is we're trying to automate all that. We're trying to get out the human piece of this maintenance and creation stuff, and automate all parts from zero to whatnot. Yeah, we'll see. It's like we're just proving the technology, and we
Yeah.
have some proof of concepts, but yeah, long time to production still.
In what I've used so far, it's awesome. So, from folks in the audience, highly recommend checking out Mindaugas as well. Okay, I know we are also getting close to time. Yeah, for a lot of the things we talked about, both of us are essentially working on things, problem spaces that we saw recur heavily at Uber, and now we see like this is a common theme across the tech industry at large. So, if any of these concepts are of interest, like if you want to learn more about whatever we are working on, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm sure wherever you're seeing this, it has links to both of our profiles and there. So maybe in the last couple of minutes, I'm happy to leave some room if folks have questions, etc. Feel free to drop them in the comments in the LinkedIn thread. And my colleague Shani, in case I am not able to see it, if you can tell us if there are any questions so far, I'm happy to answer them. Yeah. I don't think I see any questions. Okay. I think I've waited the customary 7 seconds. I think. Oh, Shani has a question. What do you guys do these days? Shani, do you mean for fun or for work? Because I don't think we have any fun. We just work all the time.
Yeah, 24/7.
For work. Mindaugas, do you want to tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, so I started like this with my co-founder. We call it Stencil Frame. This automation, like knowledge-based automation company, which I just described. So we are trying to automate the all creation and maintenance stuff. Yeah, I can go deep into details, but it's
Maybe Mindaugas a little bit about like how you're envisioning people to use stencil frame, both from a producer of knowledge side of the house as well as a consumer. That might be helpful for folks.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So we have this goal, this vision. So in the future, let's say you are building whatever application, call it ABC. So you inject our solution into the development life cycle or into the production or somehow. And our tool basically collects a bunch of data, learns from usage, learns from many interactions with the application, and automatically builds the all knowledge base, like all what is possible to do, how it works, where is the like issues, where are the issues, where are this and that. So it builds the knowledge like state, and then you can use that whatever you like however you like. So initially we will provide a chatbot experience. You can ask questions and it will give you the results, but eventually we want to generate all the content, all the documentation, manuals, like learning materials, customer support, etc. stuff. Like you can think about anything. Yeah.
Cool. Maybe I'm also happy to share a little bit. So we're building DevZero. We make environments for engineers to build, debug, test, and just arbitrarily run their software in. Ultimately, the goal is pretty simple. For professional software engineering teams, how can we reuse and share artifacts and consolidate all of our the ways in which all of our environments, etc., are set up. In today's world, there's usually a pretty large disparity because our SDLC usually includes a ton of different tools, and all of those have to get stitched together. And every single one of the bits where you have to stitch things together, that's a bit of software that someone in the company has to maintain. And it's not just that human energy time cost, but also a lot of software costs. So ultimately, with DevZero, we're building a platform where, regardless of the various problems that an engineering team might have in their SDLC, be it if it's a problem around builds, if a team is using something like a Bazel, how can you go and share artifacts? How can you actually get your CI, let's say a GitHub action, to run directly on your local computer? Those things are usually not possible today, and so we try to make those things possible. So with that, I know we are at time. Anything you want to say, Mindaugas, before we wrap up?
Just one thing I forgot to mention. So if you want to speed up anything, just first start thinking about caching. That's it. Yeah.
Caching is the solution to most of life's problems.
Yeah. So if I think like about what we did, so most of improvements we get from caches. That's it. Like 99% of all speed up came from caching.
Yeah, and I guess when you're debugging issues, you start by thinking it's not DNS, and at the end, it's always DNS.
Yes.
That's the other fun one. But no. All righty, Mindaugas, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I look forward to continuing to use what you're building. And yeah.
Yep. Same. Thank you.
And for everyone that joined us, thank you so much. Right, take care. Bye.
Bye.